Hello and welcome to This Car Pod.
I'm Kennan.
I'm Felipe.
And let's start with the news. Specifically, Tesla is our first news story.
Indeed.
Take it away.
Tesla reported their Q1 numbers. And we know from our podcast a couple of weeks ago that the sales were quite low for Tesla in Q1.
Yeah.
Income and revenue, or revenue rather, was 2.
Yeah.
Car-related revenue went down 20% from year over year. And by the way, historically, Tesla sales increased quarter over quarter over quarter.
Yeah.
They've had good growth.
Car-related revenue is down 20%.
20%. Total revenue is down something like 9% because they have other business lines, Tesla Powerwall,
batteries,
whatever.
okay.
That's a lot.
20%. And one of the things we reported a couple weeks ago is that other electric cars had not seen similar declines.
Correct. Other electric cars are doing better. There was news this week that Volkswagen in Europe beat out Tesla for the most sold EVs in Europe for a brand. EVs are still doing okay. It's just Tesla that isn't. Now, stock yesterday, we're filming this on Wednesday, when it was reported on Monday or Tuesday, stock price went down. Elon Musk said today that he's starting in May, he's going to be spending a lot less time on DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and more time on Tesla. Stock went up on that news.
So he announced that he's going to be devoting more of his energy on Tesla again, and the stock rebounded as a result of that. Obviously, I mean, it's obvious to me, I think there's going to be some people in the comments who question it, but it's obvious to me, and I think most rational people, that some of Elon's political decisions over the last 6 months have been a huge contributor to this. It is unbelievable to me here in California how many people come up to me and say, I want an electric car, I want nothing to do with Tesla, or I'm trying to get rid of my Tesla. I have several friends who got rid of Teslas, specifically, even losing money on them, specifically because they don't want any part of this.
The sheer number of, I bought this car before Elon was crazy, bumper stickers we see on Teslas now.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I mean, there are protests outside of a lot of Tesla dealerships around the country and the world, which does impact it. Now, Tesla's line in their earnings call was basically that they expected sales to be down in Q1 because they were retooling some of their factories and production was down. The Model Y had a facelift that launched a month or two ago.
They're saying that? Did you see the day supply numbers?
There's a lot of day supply, but
so they're saying production was down. Well, you got day supply.
They got day supply, but
Cybertruck day supply.
They expected some slowdown, is what they're saying.
Cybertruck day supply is crazy.
There's also a new lower trim of the Cybertruck that's in the $70,000 MSRP range because demand has been low.
Now, I will say, whenever we talk about how Tesla is slow, people say that the new Model Y is coming and it will save things. That may well be the case for a little while, but the new Model 3 came only a year ago and is already under heavy incentive. So my suspicion is that the new Model Y is not the savior that some of these people are hoping for.
Agreed. And fundamentally, I mean, certainly Elon Musk's political decisions and views have impacted sales. Fundamentally, it's also a pretty aged product line. The Model S came out in 2012, had a major facelift in 2017. So we're 8 years after that. The Model X has never received a substantial facelift.
My view has always been that Tesla, when these cars came out, were vastly ahead of the competition. And so redesigning them was not necessary for a long time. However, the competition has in large part caught up. You're seeing the competition have better self-driving or driver assist, if you want to call it that. You're seeing the competition have better innovations in other areas that Tesla's not keeping up with. And for whatever reason, Tesla has granted a huge portion of the competition the ability to access its chargers, which was, in my opinion, its last remaining significant piece of competitive advantage, that you could supercharge, you could charge these Teslas at the charging stations. It was basically captive to the Teslas. That's gone.
To some extent, a lot of their revenue, or a fair amount of the revenue, also came from cap trade type programs where they needed to offset other manufacturers' emissions. Other manufacturers now also have EVs. They can use some of that. It's changed their business, and the market has changed a lot since 2020.
Tesla is definitely no longer the silver bullet that it once was.
Now, the stock is still quite valuable.
We always wondered if it could sustain, if Tesla, the car company, could sustain at its pace. And the thought I always had was kind of probably not, considering that the cars are simply, they couldn't innovate at the level that they had been innovating. Like 5 years ago, it was an electric sedan. 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, it was an electric sedan. 2 years ago, it was a Yoke. Not quite the groundbreaking innovation that it was in 2012 and 2015 when the X came out.
And now the market is still counting a lot. By the way, the Tesla market cap is 20 times Ford's market cap. The market is counting a lot on autonomous driving, on Elon Musk's promises around taxis and being able to rent out your Model 3 and a new planned sub-Model 3 more affordable EV, which, by the way, Tesla announced as part of their earnings call was delayed. The market clearly still sees value.
The market still sees value.
Is that fair? I don't know.
I think if you've been watching the car business, you're definitely skeptical of that.
Yeah.
But you probably were in 2014.
And
So-
you are probably glad, as there's a reason the stock price is up today, that Elon Musk is going to devote more
more on
attention
it.
to it.
Okay, next news story, please. We'll see how that develops. Okay, we have some folks. Yes, the Outrun movie.
Yeah.
There's been some talks that they're going to make a movie out of Outrun, which was a famous video game. Did you guys ever play the Outrun video game?
Of course.
You did? You never did?
At an arcade?
I really didn't play many video games.
It was only an arcade game. Maybe you could buy it at your house, but I only ever played it at arcades. Like I remember going to the movie theater specifically to play Outrun. And later Outruns had every Ferrari. You especially would be interested in it.
My movie theater had the 355 Challenge arcade game.
Oh,
so I
damn.
just drove 355.
Nice.
And those sounds,
Nice.
best sound of
I
any
wonder to
355
what
video game.
extent that influenced your future existence.
It didn't. I wasn't into cars at all. And then I rode in a 355 and then I played it more.
I remember I only played it. I'm too young for Outrun the original, but Outrun 2 was in my movie theater. And I remember one time we figured out there was this hack where it gave you the choice between 5 different Ferraris, but if you pressed like the second view, like camera view button, because like when you were driving, you'd switch views. But if you pressed that button while you were selecting a car, you could choose between 5 other Ferraris.
Whoa.
It was like this is before the internet. So, this stuff didn't
to
like
know.
spread. You had to just know.
Someone passed you a note and passed it away.
So, but originally, the original Outrun game, they were driving a convertible Testarossa, which was kind of ironic because that was like the one thing Ferrari didn't make. And now they're talking about a movie. Michael Bay, Sydney Sweeney is signed on just as a producer, not as an actor.
Or maybe as an actor, too. News a little conflicting. She is a big car enthusiast, by the way.
She's a big car enthusiast, and so it makes sense that she's attached to this. My question is, how do you make a movie out of Outrun? If you haven't, for those who haven't played it,
Yeah.
as I recall, you would get in the car, you drive on a fairly straight road with simulated curves, and then the race would end. There was no plot. Other than that, there was no story.
Correct.
But they do a good job of this. This guy's a genius.
Michael Bay is good at making a lot of action out of no story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, and I hope they have a Testarossa convertible.
They have to.
So hope. I
Strawman-
also hope that Ferrari allows them to have a Strawman conversion. Testarossa convertible.
So anyway, if this happens, it'll be cool because it was an interesting part of our childhood. However,
We'll see.
still don't quite understand the process. Anyway,
as long as the car chase scenes are good,
And they
we're good.
will. They
We're
will.
good.
we put up with Fast and the Furious 12 where they shift into 13th gear like they're driving an 18-wheeler.
Yes, the compilations of gear shifting are some of my
The longest runway known to man.
All right,
That's exactly
move
right.
on to the next one. Oh, yes, the new Lexus ES. The new Lexus ES. For those of you who don't know, the Lexus ES has been announced. Now, the Lexus ES, for the first 20 years of its life, was based on the Toyota Camry. In the last couple of generations of the ES, it was based instead on the Toyota Avalon. The Avalon is now canceled. You don't know about this?
I mean, I do, but the Avalon is it's the same platform.
No, that's insane to say. The ES was a rebadged Camry with different body and all that, and then it became a rebadged Avalon, and that's what it was.
Sure.
The most recent one is now a Toyota Crown. They're obviously basing it on the Toyota Crown.
You know, I agree with you, but their press release said it's based, or like the news articles from when the Shanghai Auto Show where it was released said it's based on the Camry. I agree it's based on the Crown.
They say that this is not Crown based, but it's got all the hyper. Okay, regardless. To me, though, the most interesting thing about this, have you seen the interior?
Single screen.
Interior. Take a look. This is the interior. Does this remind you of any car's interior?
Yeah, the Ioniq 5, including the Lexus font.
Fully. This is a Tesla Model
interior.
3,
No,
Model
obviously.
Y interior. If you covered up the
Deep.
you
yeah.
would think you're in a Tesla interior.
The Lexus RZ, famously a great small EV,
What are you getting paid by? It's a trap.
has a steer-by-wire system. They're clearly looking at their competition, and they copied them.
The Lexus RZ, it is interesting to me.
Little yoke.
Tesla has had a massive influence on the auto industry. Some automakers have gone at this their own way. Some automakers have gone at this copying Tesla. The RZ has a yoke.
Yep.
The new ES, which was the yoke was coming out in the RZ as it was a huge deal in the Cybertruck and the other cars. The ES, obviously, this is a massive, massive takeoff on the success. I mean, this really I know a lot of car interiors sort of look like this now, but this really looks like a Tesla interior.
Here's what I don't quite get.
The steering wheel.
Who is Lexus going after? Because traditionally, the Lexus ES buyer has been older.
I think they're watching market share evaporate to Tesla, and they're thinking, we want to get some of that. And so they're trying to get some of that.
But like, who that wants a Lexus goes and Like, how are they attracting that audience?
I don't know that the ES in particular has an enormously devoted following anymore anyway. A lot of those people have switched into crossovers and SUVs. So maybe they're just trying something new like they did with the Crown.
Yeah,
or just different.
I actually think the current ES looks good.
Yeah, but cars like that
questionably.
The soft front-wheel drive expensive sedans don't have an enormous take rate anymore in today's world.
No. This is a hybrid.
And it's an interesting car. It's not, I mean, we're going to see them around, not like they used to. A lot of these buyers have switched to crossovers. But to me, the interesting part of this story is just how much Lexus clearly sees the Tesla influence and wants to be part of that in some direction.
Yeah. By the way, just to circle back, it is using a platform that is shared by the Camry, the Crown, the Highlander, the Venza, the
You
ES,
agree with me
the
that this
NX,
is the
RX,
luxury version of the
TX.
Crown?
I mean,
Go back
it
to
looks
the
like
exterior.
it, certainly. Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, what is our next news story today?
Cadillac V, Kennan's dream. He wants a CT5V.
Oh, the worst way. Love the Blackwing.
You also obviously want an Optic V and the Lyric V.
No.
The Lyric V was announced a while ago, a month or two ago. The Lyric is, of course, their mid-size electric SUV.
Of course.
I actually like the Lyric.
It looks great.
Styling. I love the lighting. I think it's good.
They're all airport.
Oh yeah,
they're all
shuttle.
airport cars.
Yeah, they're Uber Blacks. If I go down.
But they sold them, and that's what matters. The Lyric V will have 615 horsepower, 3.3 seconds 0 to 60, which is strong.
Real.
The Optic V, Optic is their small electric crossover.
Is that on sale?
Yes.
No.
Probably.
I don't. That can't.
I think
be
it
true.
is.
Every so often, as someone who pays an enormous amount of attention to the auto industry, every so often I'm driving down the road and I see a car and I've got no idea what it is. And that hasn't happened to me since I was like 10 years old.
The Optic is on dealer lots.
But the reason that happens is because these automakers have branched into some really weird things. And some of these cars have very low volumes.
Yep.
Like the ADX. Pull up a picture of the Cadillac Optic. By the way, that's Optic with a Q.
Yep. I'm trying to see if there's any reviews. There were first drives a month ago.
Oh my God, and I haven't reviewed it. That's part of our Talk Cars segment today.
Cadillac specifically?
So it's based on, it's based on the Equinox. It looks like an Equinox.
Based on the Equinox.
Or the Blazer EV or something.
Equinox.
I got to tell you.
Same platform. So.
I don't know anything about this car, but interesting.
The V was announced today, though, and we know nothing except for the fact that more will be announced this summer. I do find it interesting.
We wait with bated breath.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, by the way,
we've got this graphic, we've got that graphic. Fantastic. Really want to show off the car here.
Can we talk about Cadillac's SUV? Because suddenly they have 4 electric SUVs.
Yeah, and
the Optic, the Lyric, the Vistic, and the Escalade IQ.
So Optic and Lyric and Vistic all end in the letter Q. So then there's the Escalade. It doesn't have a Q in it, so they call it the Escalade IQ. Or is it just Q?
IQ. And therefore, it has a Q in it. I mean, it's better than Escalade Q.
I see
Escalade.
I see Escalade IQs all the time. Yep. All the time. I have never seen a Vistic or an Optic.
I'm not sure the Vistic is out, but first drives have happened.
Do you agree with me that in terms of Cadillac electric SUVs, it doesn't matter really whether it's out or not in terms of whether we see them?
In Southern California, yes. It does not matter at all.
I think it's like playing the lottery. I think our chances of seeing one on the road is about the same whether it's on sale or not.
Can you pull up the Cadillac Vistic? Because, by the way, the Cadillac XT6 died a couple weeks ago.
You know, that is so sad. I had a day a couple days ago where I saw 6 XT6s
really?
in a single day. Banner day.
That is a good-looking car.
What is this thing?
That's a Vistic. It's the XT6 replacement.
Why does this not find its way into the public domain?
I don't know. I don't know, but I'm into it. It's a good-looking car.
SUV.
There will probably be a Vistic V.
This is a 3-row, so this is an XT6 replacement, but it's EV only, and there's no gas mid-size Cadillac SUV.
Correct.
Ugh, yikes.
Yeah.
Well, except for the Escalade, which might be mid-sized by Cadillac standards.
Oh, wow. I think those standards of the 70s.
What does this have? Click on this Car and Driver article. What does this thing have? This one here. What does this thing have in it? No, I don't want to see the picture. I want to know what's going on. How much power we got? Go down to see the power. I get all my information. 300 miles a charge. Oh, it costs $99,000. Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, go.
But the interesting thing here is that
3.7 seconds to 6.
The interesting thing here is that they are clearly using their V brand in a aggressive way. And they can because they don't need to put a new engine in it. They just
it's tuning.
Amp up the motors. And that's smart of them.
Amp up, nice.
Unfortunately, it makes the V more like the V Sport situation.
I don't know. If you're doing 0 to 60 in 3.3, that's pretty to me.
That's pretty quick.
I think they hope to get Kennan with a CT5V Blackwing, and then get Kennan again with a Vistic V.
Because definitely the things I love about the CT5V Blackwing, it's supercharged V8, it's manual transmission, rear-wheel drive. I definitely won't love about this car. It's a very similar machine.
It is interesting. They've really committed hard to these EVs. The Escalade remains an Escalade with a V8 and a gas-powered engine because they can't leave that behind.
Yeah. They've gone all in on it.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, though, to these other ones. Obviously, the $98,000 starting price must be sort of like an entry-level launch edition thing. But it's not where the market is.
Can I ask you a question? Would it be more appealing to you if like we marketed EVs as, hey, this car has 2 motors or 4 motors?
No, because I want an engine.
But it has 4 engines-ish.
They're motors. They're motors. No,
people use those interchangeably.
Naturally aspirated quad engine. Kennan would be all over that.
I mean, yeah. What's an R1S quad engine? A naturally aspirated quad engine.
The marketing does. I'm not fooled by the marketing.
Remember when Hummer tried to claim they had 15,000 pound-feet of torque? All right, go on to the next story.
This episode is brought to you by Ava. Cars and good credit score go hand in hand. Having good credit can be the difference between being able to afford the car your enthusiast heart desires or not, which is where Ava comes in, helping you build credit fast. Ava is a credit building app that makes it super simple to improve your credit fast, so you can get better rates on loans, pay off debt faster, and keep more money in your pocket. Instead of waiting months for a secured card, Ava is instantaneous. It's simple, affordable, and it really works. Most members see their credit go up in less than a week. Hello, F40. Ava reports your on-time payments to all major credit bureaus every day to help you build positive credit history quickly. The longer you stick with Ava, the higher your score can go. Joining Ava gives you access to all of Ava's credit building tools, starting at just $6 per month. There's no credit check, no interest, and no fees. Ava is the highest rated credit building app with thousands of 5-star reviews. It's the only credit building app rated excellent on Trustpilot and an A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Don't let your credit hold you back another day. Grow your credit score fast with Ava. Download the Ava app, spelled AVA, today. And when you join using my promo code CARPOD, you'll get your first month free. This offer is only for my listeners. Get the Ava app and use promo code CARPOD, CARPOD, to get your first month free. That's promo code CARPOD. Thanks to Ava, and now go get yourself good credit.
Oh, Ram. Ram, which makes trucks like this.
And that's it.
Yep.
Is also going to be making a midsize truck. So the midsize truck has made a comeback. 10 years ago, the Chevy Colorado died and the Ford Ranger died. And it was kind of generally thought that the midsize truck was sort of coming to an end.
And the Honda Ridgeline saved us all.
The Ridgeline showed up and was a joke. It was a car-based and it had an audience, but not like the giant volume that... And so, but then the Colorado returned and the Ranger returned, and they're actually selling pretty good numbers. Then Ford brings in a Maverick. Suddenly, the smaller midsize pickup, the Hyundai Santa Cruz, is like alive again. Tim Kuniskis is back now as the CEO of the whole thing, right?
He's not the permanent CEO. They're hiring CEO. He's a shortlisted for the formal CEO job, apparently.
And he's saying, we're doing a midsize Ram. Now, there was a midsize Ram, the Dodge Dakota, designed by the same man who designed the Lamborghini Diablo. This is true. Anyway, that was a great truck, and it lasted for a long time, but went away maybe 10 years ago. So it'd be interesting to see Ram come back into this space, which seems like a pretty reasonable. They announced that they were going to do this or it leaked they were going to do this a few months ago, but they've confirmed it recently.
It's not. They have these trucks for other markets. The reason the Ranger came back to the U.S. is that Ford made a Ranger for pretty much every other market.
Chrysler doesn't, though.
No, except for the small Fiat.
They have a Fiat in Latin America, but it's a front-wheel drive carb. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a mid-size truck.
That's true. Ram does not. We'd still be interested to see them develop one.
However, those trucks are relatively popular. They are relatively popular globally. I will say the Chevy Colorado sold here is unrelated to the global Chevy midsize pickup, GM midsize pickup truck. But the market is here.
Is it just me or are those rear tires incredibly narrow?
Well, they want you to understeer.
Just like he does.
They'll be even narrower in the small one.
Nice. I'm excited to see how this goes. Obviously, I like Ram styling. I'm curious, how it translates to a smaller truck.
I mean, have you seen the Dakota? Because,
yeah, they look good.
Second
the man did Tom Gale is his name.
Tom Gale. He also did the Dodge Viper.
He did the Diablo and he did the 98 Dodge Dakota. And damn it, they both looked good.
They did. They do. They still do. I will also say one other piece of mid-size pickup news. just to slide it in there. The Frontier, Nissan Frontier, still exists.
Yeah, no,
They've said that it will likely be a hybrid for the next generation.
The next generation? They're already talking about the next gen?
Well, there hasn't been a new gen in a minute.
Kennan's over the Nissan Frontier. That truck new gen in a minute. It came out like 4 years ago.
It wasn't new.
The previous one went for 15 years.
Yeah, that's true. They are talking about maybe the next refresh. The news was vague.
Okay,
Sorry.
give us our next news story, please.
All right.
Oh my God.
This is embarrassing. So this is the Porsche Spirit 70. Now, last week we talked about the Mercedes stronger than the 80s G-Wagon. And not to be outdone, Porsche decided they were going to come out with something from the decade prior. They wanted, so this is based on the 911 Carrera GTS Cabriolet T Hybrid, which, boy, that just rolls off the tongue.
Oh, God.
And it's got serious power, 532 horsepower, 449 foot-pounds of torque. But critically, they wanted to make it aesthetically appeal to the cars from the 70s. They wanted to make it like that. So it's painted olive Nero is the name of the color, which is this greenish color and has gold wheels. And it's a limited edition car they're going to make. The interior of it, which isn't shown here, has the Porsche fabric, and it's green and gold.
Yep.
It's very...
Do you think that they took the press photo in the shadows in order to try to hide it a little?
I think...
Do you think that the press photo was intentionally kind of trying to disguise the fact that this car exists? Look at the 911 graphic on the hood. This is going to be such a hit with the Porsche people.
Oh, it is.
This is exactly the kind of thing. I love the cars so much, but they're going crazy on Renlist right now, talking about how they're going to deviate the color of their 911 graphic to be purplish black instead of blackish purple.
I started writing down the list of stuff that they supplied of the changes they made, and I got so bored I just stopped. It was just this is not something.
I think this will be cool. They're all cool. It's just
you want to know what really. So they're going to build 1,500 of these worldwide, they say, and it's going to have the price $242,250. That's $62,000 more than the Carrera GTS. Wow. It's also $20,000 more than the base price of the GT3.
Wow.
Something to think about.
But it's a limited car. I will say I do find it funny that Porsche's limiteds are starting to become pretty 1,500, not a small number. The Dakar, which everybody freaked out about, was one of 2,000, and then they left the door open for potentially building more later in other versions.
Right. The F40 was not a limited production car in the end. It was supposed to be and then wasn't. They built 1,300 of those, and that wasn't limited.
And same with Carrera GT.
Right, exactly.
That was like a big production run at the time. These days...
Yeah.
And they're charging $240,000.
I do have good news. You can get it without the graphics.
I have a question. At what point does Porsche start to not be able to do this anymore? We've seen Ferrari kind of hit the limits with the SF90, right?
Yeah.
You've seen SF90 prices?
That's not because they made a special edition of a model.
No, but my point is how long can they get away with changing a car primarily cosmetically, calling it limited and charging vastly more money, and people will fall all over themselves to pay for it? How long will that continue?
Do you remember how much money Ferrari makes from their special projects or whatever they're called, special order?
Yeah, but they don't make they don't do this.
You probably get a savings from doing it yourself. Paint a sample plus whatever it's called to get the color that only exists for
You get my point. At some point, Porsche people are going to look at this and say, you know what? I don't know. It's too expensive. It's too weird. It's not special enough. I got it.
But somebody else will say, oh, sure, I'll buy it.
Yeah,
but right now they're still frothing at the mouth to get deviated stitching on everything. So it still plays into Porsche's hand here. But I agree. For $242,000, I can think of a lot of other cars I'd rather have than this one.
Yeah. You can get a 993 twin turbo.
That's
Porsche
a real car.
guy.
That's a real car. Yeah, Porsche guy.
Okay, move on to our next news story.
So Mercedes-Benz has announced that they're going to be switching to a steer-by-wire system. Now, there are a number of manufacturers who already do this, most notably Tesla, of course, but Lexus does too. Mercedes says that they have spent almost 1 million miles or something like that doing the testing to make sure this is safe. Because when Mercedes-Benz implements something, it must be perfect in their view. And so finally, there will be no physical connection between the steering wheel and the front wheels of the car. This will be especially beneficial for cars, though, that have rear wheel steering. As you go faster, they're going to adjust the weight. So just like the Teslas do. And they're going to introduce this Yoke steering wheel.
And they're introducing a Yoke.
And this is going to come in 2026. So this is going to be on the EQS. And then they said also the S-Class is likely where it's going to end up. But it's a big deal that Mercedes believes in the technology and has developed it to the point where they can do this. So
you don't think this is a big deal?
Felipe doesn't understand steering.
You don't understand steering. Well, Lexus RZ and the Cybertruck have it, and then a couple of Infinities. But you told me there's still
The
secondary.
The RZ and the Cybertruck are the only ones I can think of that don't have a secondary backup. And I think the RZ doesn't. I'm not 100% sure.
Yes.
The reason that I'm not surprised by this is that once a manufacturer develops it to the point where they feel comfortable and other manufacturers can do 1 million miles of testing, it's natural that they would want to do this. It frees up a ton of interior design. It frees up a ton of space for how they can actually fit engines and equipment in their cars. It's massively more space efficient to have it be drive-by-wire. So once somebody does it and everybody else kind of figure out, oh, wait, we can do this safely too, it was inevitable. The same way that
but
that this is just
it wasn't particularly well received. The Yoke. I mean, people thought it was cool, but it was sort of a novelty.
The Yoke feels like a novelty, but steer by wire, it seems like an.
Well, hey, the EQS has been so well received. Why not throw a Yoke?
Throw a Yoke in there.
I fully agree that the Yoke is a novelty, but this steer by wire was inevitable in my mind.
I agree with you.
I agree. And there, to be clear, there are redundancy systems, just no physical steering column.
It is an interesting point, though, that, hey, another manufacturer is adopting this. It was in some onesie, twosie cars. Clearly, if Mercedes-Benz is starting to put it into their cars, it's going to trickle down to a lot of different stuff. And before too long, this is going to be all cars. And then everybody's going to complain about how it breaks. It's one more thing to break. That's the comment. I'm calling it right now.
One more thing to break, unsafe, blah, blah, blah. Yep.
Unsafe, yeah.
Robbed us of steering feel.
Robbed us of steering feel. Okay, next up, we have to move on to our Talk Cars segment. Our Talk Cars segment is brought to you by Cars and Bids merch. Cars and Bids has new merch, and we stole some of the designs from the European highway sign symbol. Oh, wow, we got Kennan's car on both of these things.
That's a great cut from our producer.
Cars and Bids is merch. Go to carsandbids.com, find the merch tab. I don't know where it is. You got to find it.
Or merch.carsandbids.com.
This is the level of advertising we do. Okay, I want to show you something that blew me away.
Okay.
I saw it this week. Go to the next slide. This is a BMW of some variety, okay?
What?
No one knows what. But here's the interesting thing.
It's a new X1.
You see that back wheel?
Yeah.
Ugly, right? But the front wheel is missing that cover, and damn if that doesn't look good.
Does it?
Yes, that is a nice looking wheel. That looks like the wheel that would have been in Kennan's car's era, like a nice, simple 5-spoke that every manufacturer has gone away from because they put these covers on their wheels for aero now, and it has screwed up the look of every wheel. But if you take off the aero cover, you got to admit, you're sitting here looking at this thinking, I could see this on E46.
This is another
I would say E36 for sure. I was looking at, to be honest, it has kind of a dish to it, doesn't it?
BMW still makes an attractive wheel. It's just hidden by an unattractive wheel cover.
Okay, a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, Prius did it first.
A lot of cars do it. And you know what I've basically learned? Every car that has an aero style wheel cover, if you take off the aero style wheel cover, it looks better.
I don't think that looks. It looks wrong for the car.
This is a nice.
It's a better wheel, but it looks wrong for the car.
He's saying, forget the car.
Yeah, I'm not talking
Envision
whatever this is.
Envision that wheel on a Z3.
That's a nice looking 5-spoke. That looks kind of like the Z3M wheel, honestly. Like a little
Yeah, it's got that kind of it's kind of interesting.
This is a nice looking wheel.
Can I ask a question? Are we going to be back despite everybody having people had hubcaps, and then they had alloys, and suddenly you no longer saw hubcaps discarded on every corner in Philadelphia.
To be clear, there was actually, you're missing. Kennan and I had mag wheels. There was a period in there.
That's right.
If you drive around the city or Europe in the 90s, you would see hubcaps everywhere. Are we going to be back to that world?
These seem to be held on better. For example, remember when I had the Maybach GLS?
Of course.
And we took off the Maybach wheel cover and then couldn't get it back on because the plastic tabs had broke.
And then I fixed it because I can do things.
Yeah, that was helpful.
You're welcome.
By the way, I need your help with a mechanical thing.
What do you need me to do?
I have to get the spare tire out of my Sequoia before I drive it across country. So I think we should do that together.
I'm so sorry. Last time you drove across the country, you had a tire rupture and you needed the spare tire.
Right. So now I want to get the spare tire and put it in the trunk.
Oh, I thought you might just leave it.
No, he's assuming it's going to happen again.
I'm afraid it'll happen again. Because if it had happened to me in a rainstorm or in the middle of the night, it would have been a lot harder to get it out roadside. I might as well just take it out preemptively.
Smart.
Thank you.
I'm here for that.
So you don't think we'll see hubcap?
My point is simply that BMW makes an attractive wheel. They just hide it from the public. You know what? What do you think? You know what? I bet if you peeled off a few layers of bodywork underneath, there's an E39 M5.
In this case, it's Z3.
Z3. If you're listening to this, you're probably the type of person who actually enjoys researching cars, comparing trims, decoding spec sheets, maybe even watching my Doug reviews of new cars. So this one's for you. Buying a brand new car right off the lot can be very exciting, but negotiating the deal isn't exactly the fun part. Dealers have all the info, you've got sticker shock, and a vague idea of what a good deal even means. That's why I love Car Edge. If you're buying a new car, Car Edge has a tool to give you access to something most people never see, the dealer invoice price. That's what the dealer actually paid for the car. Forget MSRP, this is the real number that puts you in control. It's like unlocking cheat codes before you walk into a showroom. You walk in armed with data, invoice pricing, market trends, what's fair, what's not, and you don't have to guess anymore. You negotiate from a position of power. That's how you get a good deal. Car Edge is run by a father and son duo who are just as obsessed with this stuff as we are. They've been featured on the Today Show and in Consumer Reports and the Wall Street Journal. Their whole mission is to empower car buyers with real tools and insights, and I love that. Go check your invoice price first at Car Edge. It's 100% free. All major brands are covered. It could save you thousands, and it only requires an email address. Just head to caredge.com/carsandbids. Again, that's caredge.com/carsandbids. And a huge thanks to Car Edge for sponsoring this episode and for making it way harder for dealerships to pull a fast one. Okay, Carrera GT. I want to talk about Carrera GT.
Yeah, famously a Formula One derived
Formula
engine.
One.
It had nothing to do with that sport. It was never used in an F1 car, nor was it used in a Le Mans car. It was developed for them both,
in
but
the Phoenix F1 race.
no,
it wasn't.
that was the footwork Arrows car.
But
that you're
Porsche
thinking.
did make the motor.
Yeah, and it was so
But it wa-
bad that they were like, you know what? Don't make us. And please, Footwork says, please, Porsche, renowned performance manufacturer, stop doing it.
This is all
Go
true.
back to
They
playing
were
with an
fired. The only reason that Porsche doesn't advertise that the Carrera GT's motor was derived from Formula One is because they made it preemptively assuming they'd be rehired for the next season, and they weren't.
Yep. Tough.
But okay, I want to tell you about the Carrera GT, which has a Formula One derived V10.
It does not.
I added up my miles because it hit me. I was just kind of curious how much I'm driving it. Listen to this. Since I bought my Carrera GT, I've driven my Ford GT 1,900 miles a year.
That was two years. Oh, per year. Okay.
I've driven my Countach 1,400 miles a year.
Which is really
yeah,
impressive.
I've driven the G Cabrio 2,100 miles a year, and I've driven the Carrera GT 2,300 miles a year. I have driven the Carrera GT most since I bought it of any of my cars. And if you add in my Sequoia and you remove the cross-country trip, which I admit that's asking a lot because that is me driving the car. But if you remove that cross-country trip, I've even driven the Carrera GT more than the Sequoia.
Wow. Well, that's true because between cross-country trips, it sits at your house.
I drove it today because it hit me like this thing hasn't driven in probably a month, and somebody should drive it. Wow. I driven the Carrera GT more than, and I still have the Mercedes station wagon. My wife only drives that. I basically never drive that anymore. I have driven the Carrera GT the most of any of my cars.
That is amazing. You're the only Carrera GT owner who can say that.
Yep. I have put 5,100 miles on the Carrera GT since I bought it in February of 23,
Wow.
2 years ago.
You bought it with 10,000 miles ish.
98, yeah, 99.
So over the course of 18 years,
yeah.
somebody added 9,000 miles.
Yeah.
10,000 miles. Over
Yeah.
the course of 2 years, you've added
Yeah.
5.
I mean, that's the funny thing about it. Like remember I met with the original owner or the second owner, but he had it for like 7 years, the guy, and we had lunch together. We talked about our experience with the car. He had the car for 7 years, but in that time, he only had 2,000 miles to it. I beat that in a year.
Proud of you.
I mean, that's
Proud
It's
of
just
you.
so
It's a
addictive.
te- it's a
It's
testament-
so addictive.
It's a testament to a couple of things. One, I think it's a testament to the servicing you've done to refresh that
Yeah.
car and make it as modern and safe, honestly, as possible, because the previous owner couldn't do that.
The previous owner of both the Carrera GT and the Countach, I think, were not up to the cars.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that it is a testament to how good the car is that you would just rather grab the keys, despite its value, which weighs on your mind when you use it.
Yeah.
It's so good the experience just rivals the others. And I think that it's also just, I'm just glad that you're enjoying it. I know that mileage probably has cost you probably $100,000 in value.
I
of the car,
wonder. I mean, I don't know. But
you've done all these upgrades, so maybe not. I don't know.
The thing that I learned though with the Ford GT is that like I've driven the Ford GT since I bought it 12,500 miles in the Ford GT.
That is nuts.
If that car had 12,500 miles on it, it would be considered a high mileage Ford GT. I've driven it 12,500 more miles. It's now got 43,800 miles. It's sitting behind me.
I love that.
What I learned though from that experience was people park those cars and save them. I've made a ton of money in that car. I'm probably in that car for $260 and I think it's worth $360. And so the thing that I learned was It didn't. Obviously, if I had parked it would be worth more. But it's not like, as Manny Koshman says, our hero, you don't go broke making a profit. Like, I could have made more money, but I made money. Like, I'm not like despondent about this. And I assume the same thing will happen with the Carrera GTI.
Wouldn't you rather just have the experience anyway? Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's also a testament to how drivable that
I think
car
that's the real thing. It is a testament to the usability of the car. The car is actually quite
well, 996 door handles, they work.
And the thing about the Carrera GT also that makes it so usable, it just blends in everywhere. So I feel pretty comfortable taking that car to places that you shouldn't take a car that's worth that much money. I got pictures of it at the Sprouts. I got
Nobody like notices. My dad had a Carrera. Is usually the comment you get.
No, I had a boomer come up to me when I was washing it the other day in front of my house, into cars, has cars, works on old Jags, and says, "So is that a GT2?" I'm like, well, I'm gonna move on.
I mean, that is the party piece of that car, especially in silver. To be clear, like I think that really helps. If it were red, it would be or yellow.
And in Southern California, where you do see
a lot of Porsches,
GT3s around.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations! Keep driving the thing. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm honestly surprised. I knew I was driving it a lot. I didn't realize I was driving it more than any of the other vehicles. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the Leno's Law situation. This is the California Senate bill that is intending to change the exemption for vehicles for smog. Right now, the smog exemption is a cutoff at 1975. They're changing to make it roll 35 years. So any car that's over 35 years will be smog exempt, and each year that passes, another year becomes exempt, which is how it is in most states.
And that's starting at the base of 1990, correct? I think that.
Because that's 35 years.
Yeah.
So it passed the Senate Transportation Committee already. Bipartisan support passes in Transportation Committee. Next, it goes to Appropriations, then the full Senate, then the governor. Who knows if it's going to pass? I don't really know. But I will say it passed there was a big news story about how it passed the Transportation Committee. And the reason I bring this up, because we've already talked about this, is there was a quote in the news articles about it passing from the American Lung Association senior director. His name is Will Barrett. And he said as a quote, "This is a real jailbreak for our air quality problems in California." And he basically said, this is going to make air quality worse. And I think this is intellectual dishonesty at its absolute worst. This is the kind of stuff that I just can't stand. It's the same deal with the tariffs. Oh, tariffs aren't a tax. They raise the prices, and then the companies can choose whether they want to raise the prices or not. But they might not pass that raise along to the consumer. This is BS. This will have absolutely no effect on air quality in California. I was thinking about the other day, walking through my neighborhood. Do you have any idea how many old cars are registered out of state and just sit in my neighborhood?
Exactly.
Everyone is already operating all of these cars. This has stopped nobody from doing anything.
Nope. All it has done is made Montana LLCs really popular.
And every other state, Arizona, and your brother in Oregon, and South Dakota, and all this stuff. And it is so intellectually dishonest to be like, now our air quality is going to be worse. That is completely factually inaccurate. The only thing that'll change is that some of us will start registering these cars in California, and California will actually make some money from it. As opposed to right now, where I invite this fellow, Will Barrett of the American Lung Association, come to a Cars and Coffee with me. It has 50 states will be represented in the parking lot of a Cars and Coffee. There are cars that are Cars and Coffees that are coming from New Hampshire, from Massachusetts. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's laughable.
It is laughable.
I do think
there's so many of these out-of-state cars that enforcement has become simply too difficult. The state, the Highway Patrol does not have the manpower to start randomly pulling over cars to figure out if this car is actually registered out of state and the person lives there, or if they don't, or whatever. It's just too onerous.
And even so, the argument, and I think it's true, is the use case of these cars is so minute. People are driving them exact to Cars and Coffee, and that's pretty much it. Like you don't want to go rock around in a 71 Panteras a daily.
No, and that is proof of the stupidity of this statement. Is that like people they're using the cars little enough that the law is not being enforced with regards to their registration locality, and so it's a moot point anyway. The cars aren't registered in California. They're still being used a little bit, but not enough to trigger enforcement. It's just so intellectually dishonest to make this claim that it's going to cause air quality problems in California. It absolutely will change nothing. Except that California will make a little bit more money, which California seems to like. Okay. Kennan, tell us about your M5 servicing.
Yes. So the M5 got its first service of the year. Now, I said at the very beginning of the year that one of my resolutions was that I was not going to spend more than $2,500 this year on maintenance alone, which is a pretty normal cost for a high-performance car.
Can I stop you real quick and give a little backstory to this service? Kennan tells us You agree with everything I'm going to say?
I think so.
He says this service got to do an oil change, and then also there's all this stuff that had not been performed that was supposed to be performed that I'm going to get for free because they were supposed to do it the first time. So we thought the service would be the cost of an oil change, $150, $180.
Call it 200.
Call it 200.
Good shop, lots of oil.
Yeah,
It's a very good shop. Right. There's some issues with the service that was performed before. There was some gaskets that weren't seated correctly, so the car was leaking a little bit of oil. And Ryan, being a man of his word at E39 Source, wanted to make it right and had his tech redo some of the seals. Now, what had to be done was dismantling the front of the engine, basically. Taking the timing covers off, the valve cover gaskets were leaking, the timing covers were leaking. It's a lot of labor to do that, but Ryan stood behind it and wanted to make it right, and he did. However, while we were there, although I replaced everything related to the timing system, we ran into a couple of little issues.
Yeah.
One was that we removed the thermostat housing to gain more easy access to this stuff. Well, that disturbed the seal, so we wanted to put it back on. The seal ended up being destroyed, so we had to replace the thermostat.
Got to put on the seal, got to put on the thermostat.
Which I recognize like that, just how it is. So I split the cost of labor with. I agreed to split the cost of labor and parts with Ryan on that. Then they put everything back together, and the car all of a sudden had a misfire. And the tech came in and said to Ryan, he said, "Does Kennan's car ever have a misfires?" And Ryan was like, "Kennan's car? No, absolutely not." And so it turned out what it was. There's a vacuum leak. There's this little elbow that goes into the plenum that was broken. That was pretty cheap. Replaced that. We also noticed that the studs that hold in the velocity stacks, a couple of them were a little loose, and like the
velocity stacks.
The velocity stacks, yes. My fear was that a bolt could come undone. In theory, it's not a non-zero thing, but it could get sucked into one of the velocity stacks. That would be unfortunate. Which go directly into the intake and that
To be fair to Kennan, he's going to say the total bill in a minute. It was cheap when you consider the elbow to the plenum, the velocity stacks, and the housing for the thermostat. That stuff. Those are a lot of long words.
Yeah, he thinks that all of these are made up, but Doug doesn't know anything about mechanics.
Velocity stack could be made up.
That is not. It is absolutely not. Someone tell him he's wrong. He knows nothing about steering and velocity stacks. These are all things. So
these are all things.
These are all accurate statements. So it ended up being, and I did an oil change and a Blackstone analysis as well.
Blackstone analysis as well.
When did that come back? I'm curious. I'll follow up with you.
I'm sure it'll be fine, but I just do it to have a trend. I like to see how things are wearing. And anyway, it ended up being $837 for the first.
But that does not include probably 3 full days of labor to fix the rest.
It did take some time.
To his credit, the rest had been promised before. I don't fault you for the rest. I think the rest. No. Now, I will say, you're over budget already.
I am not over budget.
He's not over budget, but if you do the calculation,
Q1, we're a third of the way through I'll give him a third of the way through the year. He's on budget.
No, but his budget is $2,500. We're not quite a third of the way through the year, and he's over $800.
We're not quite a third of the year. I mean, come on. May is like next week.
Dude, if Will Barrett from the American Lung Association is going to be intellectually dishonest, then I'm going to be intellectually dishonest.
Don't stoop to Will Barrett's level.
Will Barrett, we're sure you're a nice guy, and I do support the American Lung Association.
Yeah, you're wrong in this particular assertion, but I understand your heart's in the right place. But you're wrong to be wrong. By your calculation, I'm $37 over budget,
and maybe not even because we're not quite a third of the year. That you're probably like $12 over budget. Actually,
that's over budget. Over budget.
That's
over budget.
Is it in the red or in the
business? I'll tell you something. When we're $12 over budget, you think our investors don't know? They get call us at 2 a.m.
Well, based on the number of Hershey Kisses you order, we are more than $12 over budget.
They make Filippo do wind sprints.
I
finished it.
I'm pleased with me. I think that I'm headed in the right direction. I think things are fine. And the car is and Ryan also said there's nothing else to do on the car. He did an inspection, couldn't find anything. So I'm very happy.
To be fair, this is the first service in 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I have not touched the car.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So I think it's on. I think we're.
Ford GT hasn't been serviced in 2 years.
Well, you should maybe consider that.
Yeah, doesn't it need like rear axle hubs?
Tire. We call those tires. They do go on the rear axle hub, but pretty far out. There's a
the axle nuts that are on there, I think, need to be replaced. There's a recall on them, and you haven't done them.
Every recall that's ever happened on that car has been done.
I think there's an open one.
I mean, there are some issues. We can just admit
there are some issues. Your
the fuel gauge works.
Doesn't work.
It's just upside down. It's like a monkey hanging from a tree.
You turn on the left blinker and just.
That's OE. Every Ford GT.
But the last time I drove with the right blinker did the same thing.
They both do it.
Oh,
every blinker makes in the Ford GT, the 05 Ford GT is very weird. But when you turn on the blinker, when it blinks, it doesn't just click. Although it does click, it also goes. Woo,
no, but it doesn't seem intentional.
Yeah, it's related to whatever the mechanic. I will say, when you have the radio on, you don't hear it all. I hadn't remembered that happened.
Right. I wanted to hear the sound of the engine.
The
As a
engine.
true enthusiast.
As an enthusiast who doesn't even know about
Velocity
plenum
stack.
elbows.
Yeah. Well, or steering.
What is about
His knowledge is minimal. Not only does he doesn't know about anything from the intricacy of plenum elbows to the simplicity of steering. He doesn't have any. Him and Will Barrett probably have the same car knowledge.
Boy, he knows every trim of Fiat Multipla that exists.
As everybody should.
Okay, I want to talk market report very quickly because we have to move on to questions, which were excellent this week. The market report is brought to you by Cars and Bids merch.
Sean, can you cut
Merch.carsandbids.com.
to us so we can see our shirts?
You can access
There
it
we
at
go.
merch.carsandbids.com.
And you can support the Italian Autostrada.
I want to talk about one result from last week that really stood out to me, and then we can move on to yours, which were better. The Xterra. Can you go to carsandbids.com?
Yeah.
Not merch.carsandbids.com, although you should also go there to buy merch.
Nice, smooth.
Did you see this? Do you know this?
No.
I almost featured this. This green Xterra. This is OE color, by the way.
Yep.
It was only 2 model years. It was called
Metallic
green,
green.
which is a terrible name for something
Really
insane.
creative.
Okay. This car was an Xterra.
It was.
It had a all the Xterras had V6s.
Oh.
It had a 5.6 liter V8 swap from a Nissan Titan
Nissan Armada.
or
but
whatever.
Same engine.
Same motor. Hooks right up somehow. No warning lights. Like it was done right.
With the automatic transmission from the Armada as well.
Right. So it's
Really?
not going to Kennan, this thing, 4-wheel drive in this special color, very late model Xterra too. I think was last year 12?
Sounds right.
Around there.
13 maybe, but
Somewhere, it was a later
Yeah.
second gen. So second gen and a later model to come to that. So
How cool.
unbelievably cool. So this thing is sitting at $6,000 the night before it's selling. And I know the reserve is higher than that. And I was thinking to myself, this would be a kind of cool, like, extra car. Like,
It would be. It would be. It
pretty
just would be.
cool, right?
Pretty cool.
Like, Will Barrett would be mad at me, right? But this would be cool. So I'm thinking about it. And then the next day I check and it sold for $22,000. And what I wanted to say about this, not in particular about this Xterra, but in general, good swaps bring all the money.
Yeah.
We talked about it with that E39 M5 wagon swap and this too. Like this guy didn't just put a 5.6 in it and then do stupid wheels and stupid off-road mods and make it look dumb. This looks OE, but it has a 5.6. And if you want to take it from there, you can. But that M5 was another good example. That M5 wagon, that guy took an E39 Touring and just made it into like a clone M5. Good swaps bring all the money. And this continues to be the case. I know 22 doesn't seem like that much for an Xterra, but that's a
But for an
$9,000
Xterra,
car.
yeah.
It's more than some of its parts. A regular Xterra with that miles plus under the cost of an Armada, you're at 10.
It's true. You get an Xterra and an Armada.
For 10. And then this dude added
Pretty
12
good.
grand
Start
of
doing
value.
this as a business.
66. You really could. Like and this guy actually in the comments was saying, did you read the comments
No.
at all? He was in Missouri and he was like, yeah, I've done a bunch of these. He's like, this is like the 10th one I've done, but I'm moving on to another one. And he throws V8s into
That's awesome.
Xterras.
That's awesome.
Well, if he keeps, with this result, hopefully he keeps flipping them on cars and bids.
I just think that swaps are really great if they're done really, really well, which means it looks like it should have been factory. It drives like it should have been factory. It doesn't need a standalone and a gauge cluster. Like it really is. And then when you do it right, you get all the money included.
What other swaps would you want to see?
Oh.
Like what's some, or for you?
You know what?
in
You know what?
particular,
Another
what's
great
something
one
you'd like to
was.
see?
I don't do much.
Remember that Transit Connect that was Focus ST swapped?
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, I
that's
do.
a good one.
That's another good
God,
example.
that was good.
That's a good one.
That was
so
cool.
good.
Good swaps do ring the
Bring
bell.
the money. Very interesting. Well,
Remember that F80 M3 wagon?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was cool, too.
That comes up.
Yeah, it'd be hard to find at this point, probably. For example,
For example, using the search function, very difficult.
$72,000, and this was a salvage title car, wasn't it?
It sure
I think
was.
so. Yeah.
So cool. I considered this thing. I consider all the swaps.
Yep.
Because I don't have the mechanical knowledge or the time, honestly, even if I did, to do this myself. But a lot of these times, it's stuff that you you wished existed.
Yeah, I do wish that existed.
This would
100%.
have been cool. A V8 Xterra would have been cool.
Would have been cool.
All right, give us your market report, Filippo.
Can we talk about Golf R Spectrums? So for a model year, 2 model
Just
years?
type in Golf R.
Yeah, the most recent one we did was had that.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's what that sold for.
Yeah, sold for big money. So the Golf R Spektrum offered 40 custom-ish colors to Golf R buyers. Nobody bought these colors. 199 people bought in the U.S. bought a Spektrum color,
Wait,
which is
so
a mistake.
it wasn't limited to 199?
No,
It was available
just-
to anybody and only 199 people chose it?
I think, no, sorry, they only produced 199. I also think they only found buyers for 199. I think they would have done it again. And they bring big money. A regular 2019 Golf R with 26,000 miles at this point in an automatic is somewhere in the 20s.
Wow, and this brought
This
double.
is double that. because of the color.
It's cool.
A
have to
new
go
Golf
way
R,
back
a brand
to find-
new
we
Golf
have
R.
sold a couple
Sorry,
others.
just scroll back up. A brand new Golf R.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
4,000 miles to 26,000
Sold for
and
the
a
same.
stick, which is more desirable, sold for the same.
Yeah, and a stick, like you said. So a third of the miles, a new one. It's a new body.
Crazy, yeah.
And a manual, and it's sold for the same.
And we are clearly the place for Spektrum Golf Rs, by the way.
We've sold a few.
One sold on a competing platform literally this week that had half as many miles and was a stick. It was in the better color and sold for like $1,000 more while being a notably more
Yeah.
appealing car. We are clearly this place. If you search Spektrum with a K, I bet you'll find it. The other ones, because we are the place for these.
They're so cool. Man,
So
we
cool.
got 52 for that one
Early
back in
on,
the day.
yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Man,
Gotta
these are so
Spektrum for the search
cool.
results. They're worth money.
Viper green.
Good colors worth. It's true in Porsche world. It's true kind of everywhere that colors bring money.
Yeah.
Spektrum colors.
The Spektrum
Man.
cars are really cool. I saw this one come up and I was pretty jazzed by it. It's a neat car.
It's so cool.
91 Blue's not.
The thing is,
I have personal opinions about
You don't
every
like this
Spektrum
one?
color. No, I do. There's Spektrum colors that can you pull up all the Spektrum colors, please? There were 40.
he's a Volkswagen guy now.
No, I've always loved the Spektrum colors. They're just great colors.
my
yeah.
God.
There are 40 colors.
Did
And
all
there
40
are-
get bought? Probably not.
Some of them, in my recollection, had like one got bought.
Yeah,
but I
because
think so.
we posted about one of the 91 blue ones that it was one of 12. So if you figure that a few
Yeah.
of them had 12, then probably some of these there were 0.
Hopefully we can find them. But like, there's some wild colors.
Oh, that is so cool. That orange looks pretty cool.
Some of the greens are really beautiful. The burgundy, cool colors. 91 blue, to be clear, is a good color.
The thing about it is the Golf
Great
R
color.
is a special car. Obviously, it's desirable and it's cool. However, they're not distinct from each other. There were only a few colors, right? There was like blue, black, white, gray. So
Yep.
to be able to do anything that like sets it apart from the other
Yeah.
ones is pretty special.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're talking about only 199 cars. If they had done this for a whole model year
Yeah.
and 6,000 cars that come out, it'd be different. But this is legitimately rare.
It's
If you're looking for a
legitimately rare.
Spektrum and one
So
comes up,
cool.
you got to buy it.
You gotta buy. If you want a Spektrum, you gotta just choose whatever Spektrum you can get.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I love it.
Kennan, tell us about the Panoz Roadster.
Yeah. So when I was young, I remember having a book that like just had a variety of sports cars in it. And one of the ones I thought that was the weirdest and the coolest was the Panoz
Yep.
Roadster. We finally got to sell one on Cars Bids. I'm so happy. So this was special because this was one of the later ones, the A4, A5. I don't remember how AIV. I don't know how they brought.
Weren't they all AIV?
No, I think there was a Roadster before, and then the AIV came later.
I don't know much about these. I've always wanted to review one, but they are so uncommon.
So uncommon, and in my opinion, this was the idea. Like, it's perfect. It's like the execution that I would like to see from a weird car.
Yeah.
V8 power, manual transmission. Like, it's what
It's a
should
better
be.
Prowler.
It's exactly
Better
the Prowler
Prowler.
should have always
Yes.
been a V8. I think.
And by the way, I love the Prowler, but
this is it.
imagine
Like,
if it had a
this
stick
is-
in a V8 and was littler. Like this car is small and it's aluminum intensive.
Yes, very much so. And they don't. I mean,
That's what it stood for.
Is that what AIV says?
Yeah.
for?
yeah, but nonetheless, really cool and brought like good money for 41.3. Like, this is like Gen 1, like nice Gen 1 Dodge Viper money.
Was it Mustang? Was it a Mustang interior? It was a Mustang V8, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
461
it was,
V8.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
Mustang.
think no, it's better than a Mustang.
Some
interior.
stuff.
That gauge cluster.
Mustang radio,
Gauge cluster is,
but like
the
the
vents
surrounds are different.
Like the climate control definitely is.
Yeah.
But look at that, man! You are actually literally sitting on the rear
That's a
axle.
cool car. We gotta do one of these. Yeah, that's a Mustang.
They made 176,
They only made 176.
according to third-party sources.
Just like
That's a
the,
Mustang.
just like the 199 Spectrums, they could only sell 176 of these.
I
things.
think this car is cool as hell. I
agree.
agree with you. I'm glad we got one on site. I'm glad we sold it. I have no idea what the market is for these cars.
mid 40s is like kind of normal for these. So we're pretty close there.
I will say I wouldn't be surprised if the color had a slightly detrimental effect for this one.
Sadly,
Agreed.
I
The,
love
the
it.
bright color, the red was what it was most famous for.
Yes.
Probably 12 of the 146
Right,
were
yeah,
red.
yeah.
But this sort of maroon is not quite with the keeping with the purpose of the car, right? It's like a crazy, ridiculous sports car, and then it's
Is
just
it?
like too
So-
classy of a
It
color.
just seems like a. It seems very British to me, and the purple works.
It is very weird. But
Burgundy.
on the topic of weird and Panos, this is another very odd thing about me. On my bicycle when I was a kid, I had a Ferrari sticker because I pretended when I was
course you
that
did.
it was my Ferrari. I also had this thing, it was called a trike. It was like you'd stand on it and you'd like kind of ski side to side with it. A very weird thing. On that, I put a Panos.
Because
logo.
it looked like
Because it
this?
looked so weird and it was such an odd device. And that's how I feel about this car. But I think they're so damn cool.
they are.
I've never seen one in person. Would love to. Can't
So,
imagine how it drives.
This is
but-
like okay, you take a Mustang GT engine, the supercharged V8.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Manual.
Yeah.
And which is what, like 10, 15, 20 grand?
Are you trying to build one of these?
No, I'm just
You can probably
thinking
just buy
about,
it.
about
Filippo, you
how
can't
much it's worth
swap.
to me.
That won't work here.
I'm trying to think about how much it's worth to me, right? So like a good SVT Cobra is 20.
You know what your problem is?
Like a non.
Can I tell you what your problem is?
This adds 20K of value to me compared to a regular SVT Cobra. That's what I'm getting at. This seems like a deal
I agree.
for how weird it looks.
I agree. But nonetheless, do you know what your problem is?
I agree, but
The specialness of the car, even if this was 100 grand, the specialness of the car is intangible. You can't look at it. You can't look at everything from a cost
so you're
benefit.
pro NFTs. I get it. You want it to be not a physical object.
All right.
You want it to be intangible.
Dude, let me tell you something. If you're going to try to analyze everything based on dollar value, the 250 GTO is going to kick your butt.
Have I ever expressed any interest in 250 GTO?
No, but the market has shown you that it believes what the 250 GTO is worth. And so the market tells you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Just like the velocity stacks thing.
All right, move on. We got to move on to questions. The questions today are brought to you by Cars and Bids merch. You can access it by going to Will Barrett's home.
Poor Will Barrett.
All right, there's a few good questions today. I'm trying to decide if I should give you a rank question or not, or spare you the rank question.
What's the vehicle in question?
We'll find out in a minute. But there are some good questions, and I had to go deep to find the really good ones, like I usually do, but this time I went really deep and I found some with no upvotes, but they were really insightful. So, first question from Joe Hahn. What do you think? This is a really good one. Don't look at it. Don't early question.
He cheats with everything.
What do you think the DeLorean's reputation would be in a hypothetical world where Back to the Future didn't exist? Now, his question continues, but the car was released as intended with a proper V6. Let's start with just imagining it released as it was with no Back to the Future.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
The Bricklin.
Bricklin SC1. That was exactly what I was thinking.
100%.
No one would
It would
care.
be an obscure, weird, you'd see it occasionally at car shows. Wouldn't really know much about them and be like, oh, yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that.
So your contention is that as much as DeLorean owners complain and moan about all the people that come up to them and ask them if it'll hit 88 miles an hour,
it's the only reason.
it's the only reason.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, the biggest problem for any new automaker or company or startup or whatever is discovery, right? Like, how do you get people to find out you have a product? And then they might fall in love with it.
Yeah.
Nobody would have found out about it, and nobody would have fallen in love with it.
Yeah.
But also,
And especially it wouldn't have endured. I mean, they would have sold them in period because weird stuff was going on.
plus, when Marty McFly goes, you made a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Yeah.
I think he was surprised the fact that it was not that it was the time machine, is that a DeLorean existed, that he was seeing one. I think that was the surprise.
And that was his choice. Like, you could have had all these other guys. You chose this thing.
You chose this.
I do think that. Now, his question continues to say, what if it was built as originally intended with a proper V6? Or imagine it with a V8. Like, what if it had actually been a good, really good driving car? Would that have changed anything?
No.
Probably not. We have the Pantera here in the office, which
Does drive really well.
It drives well, fantastic, very cool special car. Ultimately did not have any successors, did not become a brand like Ferrari or Lamborghini, whatever. That would have happened at all.
There are a lot of good cars that nobody cares about.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's an interesting.
What?
Are you thinking specifically of the Mercury Topaz?
I am
he
now.
is.
That's all I'm thinking about now.
It's a very interesting question, and I totally agree with your point of view. You agree with it also?
Yep.
Okay. Next question from SDR Neb.
Oh.
Esther Neb.
Let's do that.
What is today's equivalent to the Trans-Siberia or the gated LP640, i.e. trims and specs that make the cars unsellable today, but they will be the one to have for later enthusiasts?
That's pretty easy.
I need more time on the question. I need a day. Like, I need a full day where I'm not doing anything else. The Sterrato is the obvious one that comes to mind.
Too obvious.
Sterrato has not.
No. The Serrato's sellable.
It has not been a
Not
seller.
that well.
It has not been a seller. And on the used market, they're way under MSRP. However, it is very clear to me what's going to happen in that car. Yeah. It is generally agreed that the cars that people hate in period are the cars that end up becoming amazing later. I mean, I was a kid. I remember I was 15 when the 02 to 05 NSX was on sale. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody wanted the car. Yep. Acura dealers would have them for 18 months. They might as well have screwed them into the showroom floor.
Didn't like in the final year, it wasn't there was, I feel like there was 1 year where they sold like 50 of them. It was like the numbers were laughably low
terrible.
at the end.
And now it's the most desirable version. Same with the S2000 CR. I remember when the S2000 CR came out. It was 21. It was joked about in the car magazines as being a stupid, pathetic, run-out attempt to sell Honda S2000s, which at that time was a 10-year-old product. Right, it came out in 2000, and by 09 was a 10-year-old product.
I drove this one. It was a one-owner car, and that's exactly what I said. People laughed at him for buying it. Well, they didn't laugh at the end. He held it that whole time. And
I once got an email from a guy. Who bought an S54 M Coupe in Phoenix yellow off a showroom floor. Wow! It had been sitting for a year, and he brought it home, and his friends laughed at him, and he kept it. And he emailed me maybe 3 years ago asking if I want to review it. And he was in New Jersey. I wasn't going to go there to do it, but I remember reading the email. And of course, that's a 100K car. He had, 20,000 miles.
Yep, easily.
Meanwhile, his friends were buying like 996s that lost 2/3 of their value in an afternoon.
That begets a question: will the SF90 be liked?
No. Because it won't be supported. It won't run. It'll be a paperweight.
But the question is, and by the way, another example: the 599 Alonso edition. I remember everybody laughed at that.
Yeah, and
and we still do.
We still do. They're real money though.
Yeah.
For no reason.
997 Speedster. There's a million of these. So the question is, what are today's cars that are like this? And the answer is, I really would want to spend time thinking about it, but
let's circle back next week.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was to say, I mean, there are some Porsches. I feel like the Sport Classic probably be one of those, and maybe the Dakar will too. But
those cars are beloved right now.
I know, but they're gonna. I think
there'd be more.
I guess they're not
beloved, and then be more beloved is not enough. It does not qualify.
It needs to be hated to love. Make sure you subscribe to the Doug DeMuro channel, and then follow our podcast on Apple Podcasts.
New
Spotify,
NSX Type S.
Talk about it next week.
I think new NSX Type S has a chance.
You do love to say about the NSX. Yeah.
I don't think the new
I agree with
NSX
you.
in general, but they only made 2,000 new NSXs, or 3,000. It's rarer than the Ford GT, and the Type S specifically is a special car.
I think there's a small chance that the 7-speed manual Vantages, current gen or last gen now, but
Astons
modern.
in general, like special Astons in general.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe. It's a maybe. I gotta ponder.
If they win Le Mans this year, I don't.
But I will basically tell you that any performance car that is hated, pretty much, I can think of very few examples where that car does not later become beloved. Those A91 MT Supras, everybody's
They're already going up. You saw
they
the most
are,
recent result.
which is why it's a little wrong to say this. But the new Supra is just a BMW. It's not the same. I have a suspicion where that car is headed. The good ones, anyway. Okay, I'll give you a week to think about
Thank you.
it. Storado is the obvious one.
Yep, that's
Too obvious.
Came
though.
first.
It's so obvious. It's too obvious.
Too obvious. Next question from Oh Yes Yes. Doug, any regrets on not going balls to the wall and buying an F40 after the investment to Cars and Bids? Yeah, some. I mean, it's a tough one. The F40 was what I wanted. When we were in talks to do the investment, even before we had actually finished the investment, I had engaged the services of my friend Matt, the cultivated collector, to look for a F40. Ultimately, we didn't find one in my price range. Sometimes I regret it. But remember, I just said that I did 5,000 miles in my Carrera GT. No way I would have done that in the F40.
No.
There's no way.
And also, you got to have the Carrera GT and the Countach, which it's not an F40, but it's similar
The
experience.
Countach provides a pretty similar experience, and in some ways actually a better one, because it has the V12 and it's definitely more insane looking. And so those two things, I think, have a really big thing.
And it's also not as scary to use.
Because of the value.
Yeah. Well, and just the way the F40 builds boost, and it's
it would have been. There are days when I wish I had an F40, and I guarantee if I had bought the F40, there would be days where I wish that I had bought the Carrera GT. I think the dream is to have both, and it's tough. But I think that if you make a big purchase like that and can only choose one, you always have regrets. It's kind of funny. People always do hypotheticals, and it's always like, if you have enough money for such and such, you have enough money for the other one. And it's no, not always. Like I was in that situation, and one of those, like, if you can only buy one car, like kids do on the playground, like that was me, and I had to choose, and I chose one, and I chose the one that is more usable, and I use it more, and I think that I made the better choice. I would say 80% of me agrees with the choice I made, but there's always gonna be that 20%. Sure. And I think if it went the other way, I would still feel that way.
There was a lot of debate before you bought either.
Kennan is still hates me for it.
Yep.
a little bit. No, I love that you use the Carrera GT. I really love the Countach. But the F40, I mean, you say we would normalize an F40.
If I hadn't added the Countach, I think I would regret it more.
Yeah, totally. You needed the buzzy.
The one cool thing about the Carrera GT Countach combo is that I think those two cars do everything better than the F40, except for maybe being the icon. Although the Countach is for the general public is probably more iconic than the F40.
Yes, but we aren't the general public. We're car enthusiasts, and so the F40 is the one.
Hates me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Next question. Okay, I'm going to do it. We're going to do a rank.
All right. I'm opening my computer just to write down my thoughts.
Write down. I also need you to write down the cars because it's a little more complicated than a normal one. Rank all of the big 90s Japanese sports cars.
Okay.
This is tough.
That's
All right.
really
the
hard.
cars are only the top level.
NSX Supra.
Yeah, NSX, Supra, 3000 GT.
Do we care about
300, yeah,
GT?
300ZX,
FDR.
Subaru SVX,
FDRX7.
FDRX7, yep.
FDRX7. That's and you know what? Put
Are we missing
R34
any?
on there. Put Skyline.
You're gonna put R34 and R33?
Put Skyline GTR. Just put Skyline GTR.
Yeah.
And put that's basically it.
Yep.
And I'm not going to go STI and Evo. They weren't.
They were different.
They were rally 4-door kind of
And
thing.
we're just saying 90s in general.
Yeah, and I'm not going Integra Type R because we got an SX on here, and I think that's the
Okay.
one.
I'm going to throw out an order.
Oh boy.
Just to get this started.
So wait, there's
There's six.
seven of
Six.
these.
There's six.
There's 6 of these.
6 of these.
That's
Okay.
really hard.
Okay.
I have an order. I'm gonna make a column for me,
they're all
column for
really
Doug,
different.
column for Kennan.
Yeah, they're all really different.
All right, everybody, take a second. Think to yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm doing that. Yeah, I think I'm just Googled them, and I think we have them all. You got the SVX in there, right?
No,
No, you got to put the SVX on.
I'm not putting that.
No,
SVX on.
SVX has to go
I'm
on.
not putting the SVX. The SVX did not have 200.
That's on there. The SW20 has to be on there.
We're talking the pinnacle cars.
The SVX did not have 276 horsepower, therefore it didn't count.
We're talking pinnacle cars.
276
It had a
horsepower,
6-cylinder. The RX-7 didn't even have a 6-cylinder.
but it had 276 horsepower, didn't it?
Yeah. Well done. Rotary. All the rotary bros roll their eyes.
There are going to be people who eviscerate you for this.
Good.
People wants to hate.
Okay, I'm gonna. The SVX can be on my list. All I'm
People
saying.
are not gonna like my answers. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, wait. We got to talk it through. I don't want to just have you do it in silence. So
He's on slug.
let's first off let's rank. Let's do last first. I would think the SVX.
Okay, I'm not putting the SVX on this list. I love Subaru. I love two-tone cars. Nah, no SVX.
The SVX is especially last
know what?
because
You
it
know,
was,
I will put a
in the
SVX last.
US they were automatic only, and the automatic wasn't even good enough to handle the power that it had, which
Yeah,
was 200
correct.
horsepower, and they all destroyed their.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
SVX last for all three of us. We can all agree?
Yeah.
Sure. Done.
Okay, next to last, and you're gonna upset a community no matter what you do.
Yep.
here.
3,000.
However.
Through the
Again,
GT
I
for
want
Kennan.
to point out that this is a ranking of great cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
And
it's
also,
really
it is-
hard to pick between these.
And it's not one where I've thought about it for approximately 5 seconds. I could be swayed.
The next last one is the 3000 GT, and I'll tell you why. The base models were front wheel drive,
Yeah.
which is true of no other car on this list. What?
Okay. We're talking base model Skyline GTR. Oh, wait, we're not.
And actually, the base Skylines were front wheel drive.
So, what are we doing here?
but there were so many. The 3000
What are
GT.
we
There were
doing
only
here?
3 versions.
What are we doing? We're not
the
talking
twin
about the base
turbo-
model. We're talking
I don't
about the car.
The cars in general included the base model.
But you think that's better than
All right,
the
then-
Z32?
then-
Like, I don't.
yeah.
Then
You-
Skyline?
really?
Yeah. You ever driven them?
No, I have.
I've driven
a
a late.
3000 GT.
I drove a late VR4. It was a good car.
So I put the 3000 GT just above the 300ZX.
I actually agree with that.
Okay, so you're changing your ranking.
No, 3000 GT is last.
Okay, I put 300ZX last.
Although I love the GT and the Dodge Stealth,
Yep.
designed by the man who did the Lamborghini Diablo.
Is that are we verified?
Yeah, that is true.
What are you putting third to last?
Well, wait, second to last. Oh yeah, because the SV.
Yeah.
Third to last. I'm only doing it because you have to. The 300ZX has to be next.
Okay,
because
you and I have those flipped, but we're in the same ball.
you have to put the 300ZX next, and we're only talking about the Z32. And the reason you have to do that is because your remaining cars are the NSX, the Supra, the Skyline GTR, and the FD.
Yep. Like icons.
Yep.
Like genuine icons.
Yeah, because the Z32 300ZX is a seriously good car.
Yeah,
but
very
the next 4 are some of probably the 4 greatest cars Japan ever made.
Right.
Yep.
And in their time, some of the most compelling cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Period. Okay. So, what's first?
I am saying NSX first.
I'm a Mark IV guy, man.
Here's the benefit of the NSX. It's the only, to be fair, and the FDRX7 are the only purpose-built sports cars. The Supra had lower trim versions. It's not really as like deliberately. It's not mid-engine. It's not as sports car-y.
That's true.
As an NSX.
And the NSX, although I still always feel they're a little underpowered, is one of the best balanced sports cars I've ever driven.
Our FD is too. FD.
I've never driven an FD, but is one of the most beautiful.
FD is not only beautiful, designed here in California, not only beautiful, but smooth, perfect handling.
Yep, I've never driven.
Imagine a better Miata, which is hard to do because the Miata in this era was a great car.
Pretty damn good. Yeah,
it's like a more powerful and bigger, but doesn't lose any of the littleness because the RX-7 was still a little car.
Does the rotary help or hurt?
It helps because it's one of the smoothest engines.
I know, but
we don't have to
help or hurt.
We don't have to own it.
We're not talking about reliability.
Oh, okay.
We're not talking about
NSX is
13B
number one
REW.
regardless.
Okay.
I agree with Felipe. I put the NSX at number 1.
And the FD at number 2.
I put the Supra at number 2.
The Supra community hates me, and I want to be one of you. I want to be part of the Supra community.
But the GTR,
you're putting the FD above the Supra?
It's so good.
You put the FD above. So the GTR. You just don't like the GTR then?
I love, dude. What am I supposed to do? Well, you rank them.
All right, Kennan.
You rank
Kennan.
I think-
NSX and then what?
NSX.
Yep.
I'd say then. Are we assuming so it's R34 and R33?
I think it's just Skyline GTR in general.
Think realistically,
I mean, both are-
it's going to be the R33 for
Why?
the
The
predominant.
34 was made in
The 34 was a 90s car.
predominant.
Yeah, but the 34 was made in the 90s.
But the
I
predominant.
don't even think the 34 went into the 2000s. I think it was purely a
the
90s.
predominant.
What is he saying? What about the R32 then? That came out in like November of '89.
Just for the record, the 34 did go into the 2000s.
Did it? Okay.
yeah, early 2000s.
You rank them. Rank them.
I would put. So NSX, I think I would put. Then I would put the Supra.
Yeah. See, it came out in January '99, so maybe I'm a little wrong. But
The
it
Mark
was the
IV
90s
Supra.
car.
Then I would put the GTR. R30. Honestly, I love the R33.
You put the
R33,
FD.
R34,
If you
and
drove an
then the
FD, if you drove an FD, you'd put it first.
Midway through this, I had almost the same order as Kennan, but I flipped the GTR and FD to
You know
put
what?
FD third.
I've never driven one. I'd love to. I think
beautiful.
they're wonderful cars.
You know
That's
what?
small.
But don't forget, it also was available with an automatic. So,
Okay.
So was the Supra.
yeah, that's true too.
So was the NSX.
Actually, so yeah, all three of them.
I don't think the Skyline was.
No, I don't.
Not the
Maybe that
GTR.
should be
The
number
GTR.
1.
It should be number 1.
So we all
but
agree.
you're shifting with your left hand always.
We
Keep that
all-
in mind.
I prefer it.
We all agree on
I
two
like
things.
driving right-hand drive cars.
That's a Sean take.
For whatever reason, when I was in Africa, it just it feels more. It's more comfortable to command the car. I'm right-handed to command the car with my right hand, like steering.
I
and
command the
shift it.
engine with my right hand.
I don't know. It felt more natural. Maybe-
Okay.
I think it's because I play the cello and I'm used to that. I don't
He's
know.
dropping Africa.
all
He's
agree-
dropping the cello. He's dropping his experience
all
with right-hand
agree on
drive.
two
I'm a
things.
well-cultured person.
NSX first, SVX last.
We also
That's
we also pretty much agree that 300ZX and 3000 GT should be last at some level. Although I strongly believe the 3000 GT should be worse. The Z32 300ZX is a seriously good car.
Agreed.
Never driven it, but
The 2000 GT just feels a little bit, maybe because it's a little bit rarer, there's less community around it, feels more special.
especially the VR4 Spider, you know.
We got to
The
get
VR4
an
Spider
FD.
is not a beautiful car. The
I
way that-
disagree.
The VR4 Spider?
Top down. That is the most beautiful, except for our FD, which is the most beautiful car ever made.
Wow.
Top down 3000 GT Spider is not just VR4, by the way. They did a regular
Okay,
front-wheel
but
drive
have you
Spider.
ever seen it with the top up?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I don't think the coupe looked that good, to be honest. Okay, the point is, I want to switch my order around completely.
Nope.
After NSX, I do want to put Mark IV, then GTR, then FD. No, wait.
That's
Mark IV, then FD, then GTR. Wait. GTR, then... You
right.
know what? I can't decide.
FD second. You committed. Supra, somewhere in the middle.
You know what? I'm okay with that. That's my list is a purist list. A list that comes out of this with NSX first and FD second is a purist's list. And by the way, I want the
I had
Skyline
to
ahead of the
convince
Supra.
you.
I want the
I
Skyline
had
ahead
to
of the Supra.
convince you that the NSX was a good car.
One of the reasons I want the Supra is irony. I don't think the Supra is better driving than any of my top three. So NSX, FD, Skyline GTR, Supra,
fine.
300ZX, 3000 GT, SVX. That is the correct order. I finally got one of these
My
right.
order is better. Thank you.
Felipe and I are more aligned than I would have thought.
Yeah, same.
I'm
Surprise.
right, though. And I've spent a lot of time in all of these cars. I've driven many of all of these, except Mark IV. I've only ever driven one Mark IV.
Is that it?
I rely primarily on the internet to educate me about that car.
And Stradman.
Yeah, Strad. So to be clear, I rely on Stradman to educate me about all cars.
And of course about how to best furnish a large house.
And to deal with their landscaping.
And the gate.
And the gate.
And the IRS.
We love you,
and
Stratman.
Koenigsegg.
Final question. Final question. And by that, I mean there will be 2 final questions. Number 1 from Speed and Power 15. What do you think of the Ford GTX 1? Would you ever buy one? And if so, what is it worth to you? For those who don't know, the Ford GT, which I have, they made a they were going to make a convertible version. Ford had a lot of different partners to create the Ford GT. They didn't all build the whole thing in-house. There were a lot of people who participated. And they were going to make a convertible with one of the partners, and they're just either it was too expensive to do or they just didn't have the interest because the car wasn't selling well enough as a coupe. They didn't do it. One of the things you'll notice is that a lot of the really special cars that were only made as coupes, one of the reasons for that is that there wasn't enough interest in the coupe to justify a convertible. A good example of that is actually the new NSX, where there was absolutely going to be a convertible and then it just didn't happen. So this car is one of those. There was a company in Wisconsin that worked with Ford that ended up making, I don't know how many. They were going to make 200 or 500. I think maybe they got 50 out the door, maybe 30 to 50, something like that. And they called it the GTX 1, and it's an open car Ford GT. I love it. I think it's the coolest thing in the world, and I really want one. And they come up for sale occasionally, but very, very, very uncommonly.
This is the one I think of.
Unfortunately, a decent chunk of them have these wheels, which are not attractive. But
this is a yellow car with hideously yellow wheels.
The car was actually engineered much different than you would expect. The rear is completely different from a Ford GT. A lot of people think they just cut off the roof. That is not what happened. The rear the entire rear, in fact, the clam opens up. The entire rear is different. So you can see here in this picture. My car does not have that double bubble looking thing. Instead, it has the glass coming down. Everything in the back is different. Also, the roof panels actually clamp into place with a gasket around them to keep rain out. Like, it is a well-engineered car because it was done with Ford. Anyway, the point is, have I ever considered one? Off and on, and like recently, I've kind of been really on it. However, the Ford GT is on a big upswing right now, and I just think this car has probably gotten out of reach for me to be able to want to afford. I think that I would probably pay another 200 grand on top of my car, so probably like mid fives for one.
Yeah.
I think that's not available anymore. I think that most of these cars were driven basically zero, so they're all no-mile cars, and they're a rare GTX 1. I think they're probably more expensive than that now.
Yeah, it would be cool, but you're doing all right.
I am. It would be cool to have this car with an open roof.
It would be.
The only regret I have on this car for 7 years, the only regret I have really is that here in Southern California, I don't have the ability to have an open roof in it. And I think initially I couldn't afford one. And over the years, I've come to the conclusion, like, maybe I should have stretched and done it when I could have.
Turns out you couldn't afford it not to.
Yeah,
What
probably.
a great final question for today's podcast.
No, there was one more, which is for us. And by us, I mean us. From Porsche 997 Turbo, Doug and Kennan, maybe Filippo. The Ferrari SF90 is an incredibly fast supercar with 1,000 horsepower from the factory. It seems to be the perfect Ferrari supercar on paper. Scorching performance, textbook design, feels like a driver's car. However, the used market doesn't like the car. With the SF90 being the seemingly perfect supercar, why does it do so badly in new and used sales?
Well, for one, it was incredibly expensive, and it looks very much like a normal Ferrari. It looks like an F8. There really wasn't that much to distinguish them visually, and so people are like, why am I going to spend more than double the cost once you optioned it for this car? And so I think that really hit it. The other thing is there are a lot of questions around Ferrari's hybrid technology, about how they're going to support it, its reliability. Every time we go into the Ferrari dealer, there's at least one LaFerrari and they're getting a battery, and they're $300,000 for a battery, and Ferrari doesn't supply them anymore. So, there's that. And also, it's just like it. I think those are the main reasons.
And production numbers.
And production numbers. Yeah, it's not a limited production car. They just are making them, and like they're around. And so I think for those reasons, I don't even think on paper I would consider it a perfect Ferrari. It's a great modern Ferrari, but it's not at the number people want it. And the number they're transacting for now, the market agrees with that. And at that number, it feels much more appropriate, like in the high 300 range. Like,
the other thing that I think is a sophisticated point, but important to mention, is that in addition to the fact that it looked just like the 296 or an F8, it didn't perform much better.
That is also true.
And so, like, you were not only asking people to pay double the cost for an unlimited production car that could have been made a zillion of, but you were asking them to make this massive financial commitment and not really get that much of an additional benefit.
Incredibly performant, and also hybrid if you wanted
296 is so good. And then not only are you paying that, you're getting that hybrid system, which you're like, people at that level aren't really even sure they want.
Right.
That's a tough thing.
And it was a transition for Ferrari to hybrid, but also like a lot of screens and a lot of other interior changes that
I agree
haven't been
that
able to
on
see.
paper it's a pretty desirable car, but when you think about these things, the 296 is so much more desirable in my mind. One of the most desirable sports cars on the market today.
Definitely. And to be clear, you know, Ferrari's hybrid technology seems to be more reliable, but like it was a concern for people. But I agree, like for a whole lot less, the 296 kind of gets you there. So
Yeah. I will say also, Ferrari FF front transmissions being $70,000, Ferrari still has this rep that like the cars are difficult to own. And I would be concerned about that with an SF90 with the hybrid thing. I would rather limit my exposure to any potentially experimental.
And like Ferraris are cars that people own for a pretty long period of time. Generally, people like to have them, collect them, take care of them. I remember when our co-founder Blake had his F430. It had F1 transmission problems. He took it to Ferrari to diagnose. They contacted the factory and they said the people who worked on this system are no longer here. We can't help you. You're on your own. They made a gazillion of those not that long ago. If they're willing to do it with a transmission, there's no way they're going to continue to support that.
Yeah, and that affects your resale value also.
And that deeply affects
because
your
that
resale
has
value.
radically affected FF resale values. The fact that front transmission.
During COVID, they were in the high 80s.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, and it will fail. It's like a question if, question of when. So, yeah, I think those are the reasons, and for that reason, give me an old Ferrari.
Yeah. Okay. That's our pod. I just want to make clear to everybody again, NSX, FD, Skyline GTR, Mark IV, 300ZX, 3000 GT, and SVX.
And Cars and Bids merch. Done.
Yeah. Buy some of the shirts.
You've done
Anyway,
it all. You've done it all.
finest podcast we've ever done. Filippo, any final words?
Finest podcast we've ever done.
Boom.
Carsandbits.com.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.